Hello everybody and welcome back to another Hearthstone video. So today what we're going to do is put my new Shaman deck through its paces. So let's get started. Okay, so our first match is going to be up against a rogue, who undoubtedly is going to be Miracle, because that's generally what everybody is playing these days up at this level. So Lightning Storm's not going to be all that helpful. Lightning Bolt would be good against an SI7 agent. Flame Tongue, unfortunately, is not going to be useful unless I have something to do it with, so I'm actually going to get rid of it. Okay, so it actually would have been nice to keep the Flame Tongue, but so we have our Squire and the Feral Wolves as well, which is great. So we'll start off with the Argent Squire, and usually it's a bad idea to coin into the Feral Spirit, because that means the following turn you have only one mana to play with. But I think that might be an okay idea. We also have Thalnos, which could give us a card. Yeah, I don't usually like having the turn 3 with only the 1 mana, but it would be such a fast start against this rogue, who can only really backstab and eviscerate, and so they probably cannot effectively remove this without wasting a lot of stuff. And for a Miracle Rogue, you actually want to waste as much as possible early on, so that they don't have it for comboing with the Auctioneer. You want to put a lot of pressure on them, so I think this is a good thing to do.
Mind if I roll need?
Okay, perfect. So I think what we'll do here is, rather than trading, we will use the Rock Biter to get rid of the loot order ourselves. That's one backstab and one eviscerate. That's good. Okay, so I think what we'll do here is, I'm happy that we have the Wind Fury Leroy here, because that means that all we need to do is get her down to 12. So we'll put down Thalnos, like so, and that'll get cleaned up, but we'll get a card. Next turn we'll put down the Azure Drake. Now, this could be an Auctioneer turn, with a Preparation Conceal. Yeah, okay, so there's the Auctioneer. Okay, so she's going to play it on an open board, which generally speaking is not what you ever want to do as a Miracle Rogue. So we will shut this down, and what we'll do to do that is we'll put down, instead of the Azure Drake, which would be nice, I think instead we will put down the Feral Spirits and the Lightning Bolts. The other thing that we could do is we could just put out the Totem and Lightning Bolts. But I don't actually, because then we could potentially not have to trade the Squire, but I think we'll do this. So it's one of her two biggest threats down. Okay, so we have the Assassin's Blade. Hopefully we get the Acidic Swamp Ooze very shortly. The Assassin's Blade is incredibly vulnerable to the Acidic Swamp Ooze.
I got the best deals anywhere.
Okay, so here the combo is going to get started. Okay, and we are going to Shadow Step the Auctioneer. The happy thing about that is that actually we didn't have a good way of... well, now we do. Okay, so the really unfortunate part about this is that we still need to activate the totem in order to make this work. So, because we have 12 damage in hand with the Leroy Wind Fury, so if we put down the Defender of Argus, we actually have exactly enough damage. But that would require not putting down the Drake. So, I'm not sure what is best. I think that actually there's no taunts in a Miracle Rogue, so there's no way she can prevent that, I think. So, I think we'll put down a totem. Yep, that's great. We'll taunt it both up. And we'll hit her for 1. And then next turn we essentially win.
I got the best deals anywhere.
The only thing that would actually save her in this circumstance would be the Earthen Ring Farseer. Yeah, okay. So theoretically that would be scary. But it actually is not, because we just win instead.
Well played. Time's up. Let's do this.
And there you go. So in my experience, this deck is actually quite okay against Miracle Rogues. They can do some scary things like that. That would have been hard to deal with if we didn't have the winning combo in hand. But if we knew that, I mean, the Azure Drake was there, we could have been drawing into it, and we controlled her pretty well, and we were doing damage the whole time. So I'm a fan of this deck versus Miracle Rogues. Okay, so we have a Warlock here.
Your soul shall be mine.
Now we're going to mulligan as though it is the Zoo. Even though it may well not be. The Handlock's actually coming back. So we're going to get rid of these two, they're late game cards. And actually we're going to keep the Lightning Storm. The Rockbiter's great for early removal, the Lightning Storm is an emergency card, so hopefully he is in fact Zoo. And this is actually a great start against the Zoo. And it's a Handlock. Or at the very least he's passed the turn, so likely it is a Handlock. So that's a bit scary.
Put this apple on your head.
Oh! Or it is actually not. That's pretty interesting. So we're going to go for the tempo play here, and we will Acidic Swamp Ooze and coin out the Rockbiter to get rid of the Knife Juggler. If this is a Zoo, that's a pretty weird start. It's totally a Zoo. Huh. Wow, okay. And he threw out his Doom Guard. Okay, so he's not got the best start happening. Now, so what we could do is we could use Feral Spirit. And Feral Spirit would need, it would essentially necessitate him to ram both of those into it. The problem is I only have 2 mana the following turn. The other thing that we could do is Lightning Storm, which would just get rid of that entirely, and he has 1 card. I'm still blocked up, but I can put down a Totem the next turn, or Thalnos for a card. The annoying part is just that either way we're using, I would say overkill. It's sort of greedy on both sides. So I think we're going to, well, no, you know, I think we will use the Lightning Storm. It gives him fewer things to buff, it gives him fewer things to work with. And so he actually, you know, he needs to life tap a bunch, get some more cards on the table. Okay, and I'm actually going to put out Thalnos for the card. He will almost assuredly kill that. Maybe even with Immortal Coil, if he happens to have it in his hand. But next turn will be the Feral Spirit.
We must cleanse the Sunwell.
Oh, and he's silencing the Thalnos. Wow, okay. That's annoying. So I think we'll throw down a totem here. And then we will use Feral Spirit. If it was the Storm Totem, or the Wrath of Air Totem rather, I might have considered Earthshocking something, but I think this is fine.
Why do you call? Who dares summon
Oh wow, and the Doomguard. So I was greedy with the Lightning Storm. I probably should have just put up the Lightning Storm and been done with it. And when I say just put up the Lightning Storm, of course I mean just put up the Wolves. So it seems attractive here to Flame Tongue into the Voidwalker. The problem with that is that we still have a Doomguard on the table. So I think we're going to have to Hex him, but that doesn't do much for the rest of what's here. Yeah, this is not looking the greatest for us at the moment. I actually should have killed the frog there. That was a mistake on my part.
My shield for Argus!
Why do you call?
So my other Lightning Storm would be much appreciated at this point. Because there's not a whole lot else that we have going for us. So I can and probably will put out this to kill the Sun Fury, not Sun Fury, the Shadowed Sun Cleric, and I think we're going to have to Earthshock the Direwolf. That takes a lot of damage off the table. But this is looking a little bit more grim than it was, that's for sure.
Do you need a blessing?
For the crusade!
Okay, so happily enough, I could actually use Leroy here with no consequence because he has a full board. The problem with that, of course, is that that won't actually help very much. He actually has me regardless, I think. Yeah, absolutely. He essentially, what does he have that is not taunted? Yeah, he's got plenty on the board, so this is a done deal, unfortunately.
I got the best deals anywhere.
I don't have enough mana.
That happens sometimes. That was a really strange draw, and frankly, I made the wrong mistake there, right? Or the wrong choice. I should have certainly used the Feral Spirits instead of the Lightning Storm in the beginning. That essentially lost it for me. Just goes to show that you need to be cautious when you use your AoE against a zoo. Okay, so we have another Rogue.
Watch your...
Presumably yet again another Miracle, because once again, that's basically what we see up here. So we're going to get rid of these two, and we'll keep the Rockbiter and the Earthshock. Yeah, and that's not so bad. My other start against him was obviously much better with the Argent Squire. This might be a bit more of a trick. I think we're going to wait this turn and then coin into the Unbound Elemental next turn. Hopefully we can Unbound into Defender. That would be that'd be the ideal circumstance. Okay, so we know by that that they do not have Deadly Poison in the hand, otherwise they would not be attacking with the dagger. It's always a nice thing to pay attention to when you're fighting a rogue. The combo to Eviscerate is the thing to watch for here, but I don't think that there's anything really they'd be able to do for that. They could Shiv Eviscerate. No, Shiv's 2 mana. So they could not actually do anything outside of Deadly Poison, I think, unless they were going to use something like a Preparation, which they really would not want to do. And if they did, that would actually be a victory. You want to try to make the Miracle Rogues waste as much stuff as we can early on in the game. Okay, we are going to do Deadly Poison then. Yep. Interesting. So that was just an inefficient play on their part. The unfortunate part is that I can't follow that up with anything that matters. But happily one of her deadly poisons will be gone and essentially wasted. Okay, so we're actually going to put out Thalnos for the card here with a totem. Next turn we have the Azure Drake, which will be good for some card cycle. Because in my hand right now I have a lot of answers, I don't have a lot of aggression, and versus the Miracle Rogue you definitely want table pressure. You wanna actually put a lot of pressure on them. The Coin Feral Spirits from last game against the Miracle, for instance, is very, very good. Yeah, now that wasn't a bad thing. The fact that she doesn't have anything says to me that she's probably waiting until next turn, where she may well have something like the Gadget's End Conceal. Okay.
Ha, this guy's toast.
No Gadget's End. Interesting. So this is a fairly natural trade, I think. There's not a whole lot of thought that needs to go into that. It's one of our easier options. Now, interestingly, even without anything else, if that stays on the table, next turn we could actually hit her for 16. We won't, though. That's fine. This turn we can sap followed by, or rather sap. We can fire elemental followed by Earth Shock on the Azure Drake. It's unfortunate because it's a little inefficient, but yeah, it's not a nice thing to have to sap something with a battle cry, especially one as effective as the Fire Elemental. Okay, and then Eviscerate. Oh. Well, that was interesting. I don't really know what to think about that. That seems to me like a pretty bad misplay, but I'm not entirely sure whether it is. She may have a reason for that. But regardless, we need to think about how we can capitalize here, and I think using Feral Spirits is an excellent way of doing so. Feral Spirit with the Flame Tongue is pretty nice. And now the other thing that we could do, of course, is we could use Leroy and Lightning Storm as well, which might... no, it won't actually... there's no potential to kill the Edwin, but that's okay. We'll put down the Feral Spirits, that's safer. And the Flame Tongue is tempting. I think we won't do it, though. What we will do, though, I think, is we will put down the Defender of Argus.
My shield.
Because that takes her down to 18. And that's actually well within lethal for what we have in our hand. We don't have Wind Fury, which would be nice, but the Flame Tongue followed by a Leroy would basically win now. I felt fairly safe taunting up the Fire Elemental because I know they very rarely run big game hunters, and she's already used her Blade Flurry, and they only usually run one, so that means that even if she Assassin's Blade and Deadly Poisoned it, she would actually have to kill it herself. I don't believe they would run two, there's no real reason. This seems to me like a Miracle Rogue who was not drawn into the Auctioneer. On turn 9 to not have seen it is incredible. And concealing the Edwin is very strange. Perhaps she thought she played more cards than she actually did, I don't know. We're going to Eviscerate. Okay, so this is lethal, I'm pretty sure. Because that'll be 9 and 4, which is 13, and add the Leroy. So yep, it is.
Well played.
Don't even need the Wind Fury. There we go. Okay, so we're up against a mage this time. This will likely be the extreme aggro variant. That's usually what is around these days, but it could be control as well. It's much more rare, though. So we're going to keep the Rockbiter and the Feral Spirit, both of which are excellent against early aggression. And that's not exactly what I would have wanted in the third slot, but that's not such a bad thing either. That's a little bit nicer.
What to do? What to do?
Someday I'll be
Coining into the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Okay. So happily she didn't follow that up with the mirror images, because that is the dream play, I think. We're going to take that out immediately. And next turn we'll use Feral Spirits. So this is absolutely... well, it's hard to tell entirely, but that's probably going to be an aggro mage then. Yep. That's interesting. An aggro mage that may well have had a poor draw. We're going to see even more if she frostbolts this, or whether she sort of lets it lie. If she doesn't, and does just let it lie, she'll be hit for 8 next turn because of the Flame Tongue. It's a nice turn 3, turn 4 combo if you can get it. It's pretty rare, though, that both of your Feral Spirits stay intact with nothing better to trade for on the board. Wow. Okay, so this is clearly an aggro mage that has had a poor draw. So we'll hit her for a lot. And she wants to save up her cards, but that's okay. We've taken board presence completely from her, so this is actually looking good at the moment. Okay, so she will use the Frostbolt. That's great, that's a victory for us. Wow, okay, so this is a very, very slow start for her. We're going to put up the Defender this turn, and then next turn we'll put down the Argent Commander as well. Okay, so we don't like to have spell power on the table, that's pretty much for sure. And so we could very easily hex that and put down the Acidic Swamp Ooze. I think that's actually a pretty reasonable option. The Argent Commander is nice to have, certainly, but I think that, given that this is clearly an aggro mage, I think it's actually going to be a lot better to hex it. She doesn't run anything bigger or scarier, presumably. Actually, I take that back. Instead of the Acidic Swamp Ooze, we're going to put down our own axe, and we will do this. That way we're still exactly mana efficient next turn for the Argent Commander. Wow, okay. So that was a complete and total blowout. I'm not convinced that she had the best draw on that one. But usually Shaman is not the greatest against aggro deck, but I actually find that this is quite good against any early aggression, that sort of thing. And these days, aggro hunter is basically non-existent anymore. The Unleash the Hounds nerf really did take it off the ladder, it seems, for the moment. So the Shaman actually is a really, really strong deck at the moment, I think. Okay, so likely going to be our last match is going to be up against a warrior named Lord Vader, which is sort of cool. Now, in all likelihood, this will be control, but lately on the ladder there have been a couple more aggro variants. So the Flame Tongue is not great to keep in your opening hand for basically any reason. Rockbiter is, it's great, and I think we don't need 2 early removals. So I think that we are going to get rid of the Lightning Bolt. Maybe I will regret that, but I think we're going to get rid of that. Hope for creatures instead. And that's not terrible. We would prefer something like the Ooze, and we would prefer something like the Squire, but that's okay. Okay, so it almost certainly is control at this point. given that they skip the first turn.
Mind if I roll need?
Although that's a weird thing to see in a control deck. Well, that's interesting. I think we're going to throw down the Feral Spirit anyway.
Job done.
Feral Spirit is usually a pretty strong turn 3 play, especially because with Rock Biters, with Totems, you have a good follow-up, even though you only have 2 mana the next turn.
Back to work.
Interesting. Okay. So it is then going to be a control deck. But it just happens to run Loot Hoarders. So that's sort of neat. So we're going to Rockbiter this guy, the Cruel Taskmaster. I do wish that I had come into my ooze here, but unfortunately not to be. It's quite valuable to take out one of the early Fiery War Axes from a Control Warrior. Interestingly, he's not going to burn the charge. We'll put down the Azure Drake and hope for something a little bit stronger here. Next turn we can use the Fire Elemental if we need to. We are looking a bit creature light this game though, which against control you would like to push aggression.
Armor made to fit.
Okay, so he will Shield Slam the Drake. I was afraid of that, but so be it. So this turn I would very much like to Earth Shock and Fire Elemental, but we're 1 mana shy of that. I would also like to keep his armor down from the ludicrous level that it currently is at. I mean, it's not ludicrous for how high Control Warriors can ultimately get, but it is not nice for being able to Shield Slam in one shot anything in my deck. So, I think we're going to Earth Shock, and, well, let's put down a Totem, I suppose, first. See, I'd like to put down the Defender as well. So perhaps Earthshock and then Defender, just to make sure that we have the mana, because we wouldn't otherwise. We could also Earthshock and Rockbiter. I don't really like that, but I think that might be an okay option. I don't want to Hex this, because I know what's coming.
There is little time. Elements guide.
My shield for Argus.
None.
Okay, Black Knight. Glad that he used it on a totem as opposed to on something that actually matters. I'm actually quite pleased with that. Now, that's also not worth a Hex. I think we're going to do the Fire Elemental followed by the Lightning Bolt on that. It is a little bit of overkill, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. Now that threat for him is fairly easy to get rid of, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. If he does deal with it, that's more removal that's gone,
Speak to me.
and if he doesn't, then that's even better. He's looking for cards, which is interesting. He has an Execute, presumably. Yeah, okay. Okay, happily we have another one. I think I'm interested in taking his armor down so we can't Shield Slam it easily. He's already blown an Execute on it, so I think scaring out the other one would not be a bad thing. Our win condition, of course, is like a Wind Furied Leroy. And we still have the Flame Tongue and everything. So, all of that is fine. We still have plenty of damage in the deck by which we can kill him. Okay, so we have Rag. Hopefully Rag hits me. Oh, that's really too bad. I do hate those 50% chances. So we can actually do the whole sweep here. We will do the Feral Spirit, and we'll Lightning Storm as well to get rid of his board. here comes the legendary Storm. The unfortunate part is that I think he has actually got this. We still obviously have ways, and I mean we'll hex this because we don't have a whole lot of options. However, something like a Grom will be pretty rough at this point. Happily though, when the Gore Howl comes down, we have an answer. And I will hold it for that. Okay, so we don't have a lot of, not a lot of chance here, unfortunately. Control Warriors can be a tough matchup. Shaman tends to be okay against them, but there are plenty of circumstances by which if they control your board hard enough, if they control sort of your spells and all of this, and basically make it so that you have to use things in just non-ideal circumstances, then it can be very easy to lose to them.
Pain, speak to me.
My other Lightning Storm would be good here, although having the Armor Smith in the way is a bit of a pain. He will gain a good deal of armor from that. I think I'm actually willing... Well, I'm not actually. I have 13 cards left in the deck, and the chances of there being... I have a reasonable chance of getting the Lightning Storm out. And I want to save Thalnos for it. Not exactly what we're looking for. So, I think this game is done. And it wasn't actually especially close either. That was a bit of a blowout. But sometimes that can happen. I had to use inefficient removal a couple of times early on, and unfortunately I never got my sort of tempo, right? The fact that I have the ooze now, the fact that I had, the Fire Elementals piecemeal in the middle of the game, which he could easily get rid of without a board to support them, is unfortunate. This would have been nice to have early on, but unfortunately it is not to be.
Well played.
4 damage slam. The 2 Azure Drakes and the Warrior are actually quite effective. Interesting deck he's running, interesting variant. In any case, so that's sort of that. We could do some more matches, but I think that's sufficient for the moment. We beat 2 Miracle Rogues and an Aggro Mage, and the Miracle Rogues were not especially difficult matches, which is good because they are the sort of the core of the meta right now. They didn't have ideal super draws, but I think that basically any deck, when put up against Miracle Rogues, if they get a super draw, just like against Zoo, if they get a perfect draw, then you basically lose 100% of the time. So, I think this deck is fairly effective at capitalizing when they don't, and it can actually prevent some things that other decks just don't have the capability to do. So, in any case, thanks so much for watching, guys, and if you like this, you can subscribe to me on Twitter. I publish updates whenever I post new videos or whatever else. You can follow me at DreadmakerHS. And otherwise, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.